What began as a celebration with friends ended in a tragedy that redefined the phrase, stranger danger. But the most haunting part isn't what happened. It's that it was completely avoidable. To understand the sliding doors moments that led to her final minutes, we have to go back to where it started. Before the alcohol. Before the mistakes. Before the sun went down. Friday, January 29th, 2016. It was the end of the month, payday weekend in Northampton. The town was waking up to that kind of energy you only get on the last Friday of the month. The weather was cold, typical for January, but the mood was high. For 20-year-old India, this was supposed to be a weekend of release. She was a barmaid, used to being on the sober side of the counter, pouring drinks for everyone else. But tonight was her turn. She was a doctor's daughter, bright, well-loved, and by all accounts in high spirits. The plan was simple, the same plan thousands of young people have every weekend across the UK. India went to her friend's house for pre-drinks. They took a taxi into town and headed to NB's, one of Northampton's most popular spots. At this point, around 10 p.m, there is no sign of danger. But as the clock ticked past midnight, the atmosphere shifted. The drinks flowed a little too freely. The group dynamic, so crucial for safety on a night out, began to fray. India became separated from her friends. And somewhere, in the shadows of the town centre, Edward Tenniswood was waiting. This is where the story turns from a standard night out into a case study of systemic failure. At 12:58 a.m, India is visibly intoxicated. She approaches the doorman, Dave Burry. She tells him clearly, "I just want to go home." Burry does his job. He guides her to a waiting taxi. He puts her inside. The door closes. In a perfect world, the story ends here. India wakes up the next morning with a hangover, safe in her bed. But the taxi doesn't move. The driver, Andrew Birkinshaw, asks for the fare in advance. India, confused and drunk, struggles to find the cash. She becomes agitated. The driver later testified she threw a wobbly. He makes a decision. He tells her to get out. India is now standing outside NB's cocktail bar. She is swaying. She is trying to use her phone, but her coordination is gone. She is alone. A male approaches India. He isn't a hulking figure in a mask. He is 52 years old, small, balding and unassuming. To the casual observer, he looks like someone's father, or even a grandfather. He had been standing outside the club for 30 minutes, just watching. Watch how he operates. He doesn't grab her. He mimics a protector. He sees her struggling with her phone and steps into her personal space. Witnesses later said he was speaking to her in a paternal way. He wasn't acting like a predator. He was acting like a good Samaritan. Witnesses overheard the lie that sealed her fate. He tells her, "Don't worry, I'll get you home safe." He guides her away from the safety of the bouncers. He isolates her. Another witness hears him tell India to put her phone away because she might lose it. Think about the psychology of that. He is stripping her of her only lifeline, her ability to call for help, and he's disguising it as helpful advice. Edward Tenniswood walks with her. They get into a taxi together. Tenniswood gives directions, but he doesn't give India's address. He gives his own. And the most terrifying part, the taxi driver takes them. Why wouldn't he? He sees an older man helping a drunk girl. It fits the social script. He assumes they are related. The car drives away, disappearing into the Northampton night. And with that, the window for rescue starts to close. They arrive at 6 Stanley Road. A neighbour sees them enter the property. He thinks it looks odd, a young girl stumbling in with an older man, but he doesn't call 999. Another opportunity missed. The door closes. Saturday morning breaks. For the rest of the town, the hangover is clearing. But for those who knew India, a different kind of sickness is setting in. Usually, the morning after is filled with texts in the group chat, debriefs of the night before, photos shared, jokes about headaches. But India's phone is silent. Her boyfriend and her friends start reaching out. Are you okay? Where did you end up? Call me. Every message goes through, but none are opened. There is a specific kind of terror that comes with unread messages. At first, you rationalize it. She's asleep. Her battery died. She lost her phone. But as the hours bleed into the afternoon, the rationalizations run out. India wasn't the type to disappear. She was reliable. Her mother, fearful and desperate, makes the call that no parent ever wants to make. She reports her daughter missing. The breakthrough didn't come from a witness. It came from the technology in our pockets. Detectives requested the cell tower data for India's phone. It wasn't moving. It wasn't at a nightclub, and it wasn't at a friend's house. The signal was pinging steadily from a residential street in the St. James area, Stanley Road. It is Sunday, January 31st. The police arrive at 6 Stanley Road. They knock on the door. No answer. They shout through the letterbox, identifying themselves as police. Silence. The street is quiet. The curtains are drawn. But the technology is screaming at them. The cell tower triangulation is precise. India's phone isn't just in the area. It is pinging from inside the structure. The officers on the scene are faced with a critical decision. They don't have a warrant yet, but the threat to life is credible. They make the call. They smash through the front door. Wood splinters, the lock gives way, and the silence of the street is shattered. But as the officers step across the threshold, the rush of adrenaline hits a wall of sensory overload. The house is empty of people, but it is full of filth. Stepping into 6 Stanley Road wasn't just entering a crime scene. It was stepping into a nightmare. The hallway is a tunnel, narrowed on both sides with waist-high stacks of newspapers and rotting garbage. It is a hoarder's den, a physical manifestation of a mind that has completely lost the ability to let go. Detectives begin to move through the squalor of the ground floor. They have to step carefully, navigating a maze of trash. But as they scan the room, they notice strange, jarring anomalies. In the middle of this chaos, there are pockets of extreme clinical order. They find a computer desk. The desk is surrounded by filth, but the keyboard and mouse are wrapped tightly, perfectly, in cling film. It is a chilling detail. It suggests a man who is terrified of contamination, yet lives in a landfill of his own making. The officers leave the hoard of the ground floor behind and move to the staircase. They approach the spare bedroom door. There is a moment of hesitation that every experienced officer knows. It is the heavy pause before you open a door that you know, instinctively, will change the lives of a family forever. They push the door open. The first thing they notice is the contrast. Unlike the rest of the house, this room isn't buried in trash. It is sparse. It is staged. On a mattress on the floor, they find India. She has been dead for some time. Tenniswood has redressed her. He has pulled the sheet up to her chin, tucking her in with a tenderness that is sickening to comprehend. But it is the detail of her hair that reveals the true face of the monster. Edward Tenniswood hadn't just killed her and fled. He had spent time with her body. He had taken her hair and carefully, strand by strand, fanned it out around her head on the pillow. One of the first officers on the scene stood over the mattress and noted this haunting detail. He later described it to the court as a halo. This single detail changes the entire profile of the crime. It tells us that for Tenniswood, the murder wasn't the end of the fantasy. It was the peak of it. He didn't want a partner, he wanted a possession. He had created his perfect moment, and then he had locked her in his house and walked away. The investigation instantly shifts gears. It is no longer a rescue mission. It is a manhunt. They have a body. They have a suspect. But the house is empty. Where is Edward Tenniswood? Police quickly track his movements using CCTV and financial data. The timeline they uncover is infuriating. While India's family was agonizing over her disappearance, making desperate calls and posting on social media, Edward Tenniswood was going about his day. He had packed a bag. He hadn't fled the country. He had walked calmly to the centre of Northampton, just a few miles away. He had checked into the Ibis Hotel. Imagine the psychology of this. He has just murdered a young woman and left her displayed on a mattress in his home. And now, he is sitting in a sterile, modern hotel room, surrounded by other guests who are on business trips or weekend getaways. He is hiding in the banality of the everyday. Around 6:45 p.m. on Sunday, armed with the knowledge of what lies in that room on Stanley Road, police descend on the Ibis Hotel. When they breach his room, they expect a man on the edge, perhaps panic packing or trying to escape through a window. Instead, they find Edward Tenniswood sitting calmly in a chair. He is watching the evening news. He is eating a meal. He looks up at them with an expression of mild annoyance. And then, the officers notice his hands. He is wearing a pair of latex gloves. Even here, miles from the crime scene, his obsession with contamination and leaving no trace continues. He is arrested immediately. He doesn't ask what happened. He is casually arrogant. As he is being led away in handcuffs, he complains that they are interrupting his evening. As they walk him out, he looks at the detective and delivers a line that confirms his guilt more than any confession could. He sneers. "I suppose you've been to the house then?" It was the comment of a man who knew exactly what he had left behind. While Tenniswood sat in a police cell, offering no comment, India's body was telling the story he tried to hide. The pathologist found over 30 separate injuries on her body. There was blunt force trauma to her face. There was deep, darker bruising on her neck, consistent with sustained, violent pressure. But crucially, there was evidence under the fingernails. Forensics found India's DNA under Tenniswood's fingernails, and his DNA under hers. This destroys the narrative of a quiet death. This wasn't quick. This was a fight. In that small, cluttered house, terrified and alone, India fought for her life. The trial began at Birmingham Crown Court. In the face of such overwhelming DNA evidence, you might expect a guilty plea. You might expect a shred of remorse. Edward Tenniswood did the opposite. He pleaded not guilty. He forced India's family to sit in the gallery and listen to him, detail the final moments of their daughter's life. He treated the courtroom like his personal stage. Witnesses described him as seemingly enjoying the attention. His defense was a masterclass in gaslighting. He tried to rewrite reality. He told the jury that India, who we know was drunk, lost, and distressed, had approached him. He claimed she had wanted to go back to his house. He claimed that he was the victim of her advances. He described the murder as consensual asphyxiation, a game gone wrong. But then, in a moment of hubris, he said something that made the jury's blood run cold. He described the moment she died. He claimed that as he squeezed her neck, she squeezed his hand back. He told the jury he interpreted this as her enjoying it, and when she went limp. He didn't call 999. He wasn't describing an accident. He was describing his satisfaction. He was reveling in the ultimate control he had over her. The jury wasn't fooled. They looked at this small, greying man in the dock. And they didn't see a confused grandfather. They saw the predator who wrapped his computer in cling film to keep it clean, but left a young woman dead on a mattress. They saw the narcissist who wore gloves to eat dinner while India's family searched the streets for her. It took them less than 2 hours to return a verdict. Unanimous. Guilty. The relief in the courtroom was audible. Judge Rupert Mayo did not hold back in his sentencing. He looked Tenniswood in the eye and stripped away his delusions. He described the murder not as an accident, but as the realization of a lucid, depraved fantasy. He sentenced Edward Tenniswood to a minimum of 30 years in prison. Given his age, it is a life sentence. The man who waited in the shadows will likely die in a concrete cell.